Hi, my name is Chris Casado. I'm the co-founder of TSX Challenge, and I understand that some people weren't able to make it into our event tonight. And so I wanted to recap quickly what we did so you can have a good sense of kind of the one-on-one of backpacking the Grand Canyon. Just a quick background about myself. My name is Chris Casado. I'm the co-founder of TSX Challenge. We organize inspirational backpacking trips for all ages and all experience levels. We've been doing this since 2001. My very first backpacking trip was a week-long hike across the Sierra to Mount Whitney. And we started TSX in 2011 and then added the Grand Canyon back in 2014. I have a buddy who actually introduced me to backpacking the Grand Canyon. He's like, Chris, you do all this backpacking in the Sierra. You've been doing that for many years. You gotta come check out the Grand Canyon. It's gonna blow you away. And so he put together this 3-night, 4-day loop. It was off the beaten path. It was rugged. It was interesting. And I thought, wouldn't it be cool if we could take this unique experience that we started out in California, the Trans-Sierra Extreme Challenge, this week-long hike across the Sierra to Mount Whitney that we've been operating since 2011, and open it up to touch more people in the Grand Canyon. And so Andy and I, a buddy of mine from Flagstaff that I went to school with out in Indiana, put our minds together and we started something called the Grand Canyon Challenge back in 2014, 2015. Really just a 3-night, 4-day loop that is designed to enable people who might not have the skill set or experience to see some of the more remote, least traveled regions of the Grand Canyon, and hopefully inspire people that no matter your age, background, shape, or size, you can do anything you put your mind to, including hiking to the bottom of the Grand Canyon to sleep on the beaches of the Colorado River. So that's kind of our basic in mind. This is the 3-night, 4-day loop that he put together for me, my first backpacking trip. And actually, it's the same route we continue to run for a majority of our Grand Canyon Challenge trips today. We've since expanded. We now have about 4 to 5 trips that we offer the Grand Canyon. If you're considering an organized trip, keep us in mind. If you're just looking for an idea for your friends and family for future trips, use me as an open book. Shoot me an email, send me a text, or hopefully you can join in and we'll get you into our future classes as well. This is another one of the routes that we do, Escalante Route, and I'm going to talk a little bit about a few of the different routes you can see, some from the east, some from the west, as we go through this presentation today. Real quick orientation, where is the Grand Canyon? How do we get started? What's this all about? So if you don't know where the Grand Canyon is, here's a quick snapshot. It's right here. I'm in California right now. It's kind of in our own backyard. We're so lucky to have something so approachable and so accessible right here and so close. If I were to kind of zoom in or do the Google Map perspective, this is what Google Map is going to show me. And if I were to take this line, which is the Grand Canyon, stretch it out from edge to edge, it's about 277 river miles long. It's about 18 miles wide at its widest point and about a mile deep. These are kind of just rough numbers, but from my perspective, this is incredible. It's almost like the entire range of the kind of the High Sierra dumped upside down, and now this is our playground that we have to go explore. A few other quick facts to know: the North Rim, no matter if you're going east to west, if you're on the other side of the river, that's north, the other side of the river is south. About 10% of actual Grand Canyon visitors visit the North Rim every year. A majority of the visitors come down to the South Rim. A few other things to know about the Grand Canyon in terms of quick terminology: rim, if you're on the top looking into the canyon, you're on the rim. About 2/3 of the way down is what's called the kind of Tonto platform. And this is the path of least resistance. If you're going to go east and west, kind of up or down river, you would use the Tonto platform as a trail to kind of move you up and down along the river. And then you have something called the Inner Gorge. This is pretty much the last 1,000 feet down into the canyon. And when you put yourself, if I kind of fly myself onto the Tonto and have a view of it, it would look a little bit like this. And from the Tonto, you can see all the way down to the river, all the way up to the rim. You have some of the best views of the entire canyon. A little bit more perspective, backpacking or hiking into the Grand Canyon, there are 3 main trails that people think about usually, and these are what are called the corridor trails. These are the only trails that are really regularly maintained by the Grand Canyon National Park Service. It's the Bright Angel Trail, the North Kaibab, and the South Kaibab. And all 3 of these routes are well-maintained, water access, relatively high traffic areas. If you were to put together a backpacking trip along these 3 routes, it would be, you can do anywhere from 10 miles if you want to get down to the river and then another 10 miles back up, so 20 miles roughly speaking. Or if you wanted to go to rim to rim or rim to rim to rim, you could build something up to 45 or 50 miles, exploring maybe a side trip for a couple miles off of some of these trails as well. But if you're on the corridor trails, these are the routes that are maintained by the Park Service. Pretty reliable access to water, reliable access to help if needed. Still pretty daunting. You want to be prepared for everything that the Grand Canyon has to throw at you. When you get down to the river, there's a nice bridge that would take you across. If you can kind of time it right or plan your adventure far enough in advance, You might be able to stop in and pull up a nice meal at Phantom Ranch, which is at the bottom of the Grand Canyon as well. If you're going to do a rim to rim, a couple things to consider is you need to coordinate transportation. There may be some shuttle services available. Definitely check out the Grand Canyon to see what's available at the time of year that you're going to be going. One thing to note is that the North Rim is generally closed from mid-October to mid-May. So keep that in mind. Switching gears, if we get outside the Grand Canyon, corridor trails, what else could we talk about? And this is my perspective. This is not an exhaustive list, but a quick hit on some of the ideas that you can think about for other backpacking trips. And these are kind of categorized as rim to river trails, and I'm going to talk about like an inner canyon trail. So the rim to river trails include the corridor trails. These all start at the rim and end at the river. Then on the far west, this actually is slightly off at the moment, is Thunder River. I think the tab should be over maybe an inch or two. Thunder River is, I'll show you a quick picture of that, but beautiful place to go explore. You have the South Bass, North Bass, Boucher, Dripping Strings Trail, the Hermit Trail, Grandview, New Hance, and Tanner pops up on the far east. I put a small exclamation mark next to a few of these because on these routes in particular, there is no reliable source of water until you actually reach the river. Connecting several of these routes is something called the Tonto Trail. It's about 90 miles long, and it's kind of the path of least resistance that could be the backbone of east-west travel within the Grand Canyon. And if you use the Tonto Trail, you can kind of think of it like the John Muir Trail in the Sierra, where you can start building multi-night loops that perhaps go into Hermit, go along the Tonto, come out Bright Angel. Or maybe you're going to go down Tanner, go along the Escalante route, hit the Tonto, build something longer, and come out Grandview, or even Bright Angel or something farther down. So you can kind of think of this as east-west travel and then top-to-bottom travel and how they might interconnect together. Here's what Thunder Falls might look like if you're out traveling on the west. And if you're out on the east side, this is what the Confluence might look like, kind of the blending of the Little Colorado and the main Colorado River, kind of get the cool flow as they come together. In between, you have some amazing features as well. 75 Mile is something that you might find on the Escalante route. Water is an issue. A couple things to think about. This is a picture of Monument Creek. It's on the loop between Hermit and Bright Angel. And if you look at this picture, it looks like there's no water in there. But in reality, there is water kind of flowing beneath the gravel. And it pops out just at the edge of, as the creek bed approaches the river. And it also flows farther up canyon near where the Tonto Trail crosses the creek bed as well. Sometimes you might get to the river and it might look like this. So you need to be thinking about how you're going to prepare yourself for filtering water. If you take a quick, simple paper filter and start pumping, it might clog your filter pretty quickly. So some other options are letting it settle, taking water containers, filling it up, letting the water kind of settle out, filtering up the top. There's other added elements that you can put in to help make the water taste better or drop some of the sediments a little bit quicker. But keep this in mind, be thinking about water preparation and do a little additional research before you go in. The time of year also has an impact on what the water quality of the river may look like and some of the other weather conditions. 4 W's. First is water. Second is what's realistic. Know what's realistic for your team. You might be hiking in extreme conditions. The weathers can be changing. One thing that's different about the Grand Canyon is if you're going to be doing it exiting at the end of the day, it's always uphill. So make sure you have enough energy. In this picture, one guy clearly has enough energy, the guy in the green. The other 3, TBD. Weather. Keep in mind that weather, the best time usually to backpack the Grand Canyon is mid-March to mid-May, and then late September to kind of early November. This is what I call like the Goldilocks time of year. Not too hot, not too cold, just right. It can be a lot warmer in the sun than the temperature might allude to. So if you're going to be hiking in some of those warmer periods, make sure you're drinking lots of water, consuming regular salty snacks, and then hiking early in the morning and kind of being done by the time that hot weather picks up. One thing you can do if you're down at the river and it is a warm day, definitely soak yourself to stay cool. Bring that temperature right back down and you come right back to life. These trails are rugged. This is kind of another W, maybe a cheat W. I'll take the W with a rugged. But this is a picture of the Hermit Trail. If I were to zoom into where these people are, there's constant erosion, constant change happening in the Grand Canyon on a seasonal basis. And it looks like this on occasion, where you might need a hand to get over it. Other routes can be even more daunting. This is someone coming down the Boucher, where you have some hand and foot down scrambling. You have the new Hance Trail, and in certain sections, it can be arguable if this is even quote unquote a trail, but it's a very creative way to get down the Grand Canyon. And then you have the Escalante Route, which will definitely require going over the Popsicle wall, some hand and foot holds as you kind of make your way to the top, and then sometimes even more daunting is coming down the Popsicle slide. This is what it looks like if you're kind of approaching it from the top, looking back down. And here we are coming kind of down the slide, which is roughly a 300-foot rock slide as you kind of pick your way down. So again, just kind of a recap, these are the rim to river trails, a few of the experiences you might have in there, and then the Tonto Trail, which is kind of your trail of going east to west. Logistics and safety. If you're doing this with an organized group like TSX Challenge, we take care of a lot of this for you. If you're going to be doing this on your own, here are a few things you might need to know. So we try and make it as easy for people with limited or no experience to get into the Grand Canyon. We take care of permits. If you need a backpack, spin bag, or tent, we'll provide that for you. We take care of all food and cooking, coordinate transportation to and from Flagstaff. All you really need are your personal items, kind of your hat, gloves, boots, jacket, sense of adventure, and positive attitude. If you're going to be doing this on your own, however, you want to make sure you get your permits in advance. Permits are issued through a lottery process 4 months in advance of the month that you want to hike, and you need to apply by the first of the month 4 months in advance. What that means is if you were to be planning a hike for the fall and you would like to hike in October of 2023, then you need to be thinking about submitting a permit by June 1st. What you need for the permit is a trailhead you're going to be using, the nights you're going to be camping and what location you'll be camping in, a range of dates, the number of people in your party, and you fax it in. Do you guys know what a fax is? You can figure that one out. But they still require faxes, and then you wait, and usually within 1 to 2 weeks, you're going to get your permit back. Hopefully everything is good and you'll be on your way. For food storage, a few other things that might be unique. I spent a lot of time backpacking in the Sierra where we have bear cans to protect our food from larger animals. We have some smaller animals, but equally aggressive sometimes in the Grand Canyon. And so everyone is required to bring a wire mesh rat sack, and this is going to prevent your food from being raided by animals, rodents, birds, the crows can be a bit intense at times, the ravens. So protect your food with like a wire mesh rat sack each night if you're stepping away from camp. Safety. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this. Hopefully you have some experience managing some of these issues, but some of the more frequent items that we have experience are heat exhaustion, heat stroke. So that heat, especially towards the end of the day, you might start at the top of the rim, it's 30 degrees. You might end at the floor of the canyon where it might be 90 degrees. A huge temperature change, making sure you have enough water, make sure you're getting in the shade. And so these are things that we manage on a regular basis in our trips out there. Twisted ankles, pretty common as well. Most injuries happen going downhill. We're always thinking about water safety and water quality throughout the time, and kind of managing the situation for each individual group and knowing kind of the seasonality of what to expect when we're out there as well. Leave no trace. Generally speaking, you want to leave things as clean, if not cleaner than you found them. Each kind of location will have that you camp in may have certain preferences that will be stated on your permit of how they'd like you to treat that campsite. Oftentimes, if you're on a more remote area, if you get down to the beach, they ask you to urinate in the river. That's kind of one of the unique things about the Grand Canyon. The solution for pollution is dilution down on some of these more remote places. So be sure to read your permit, make sure you understand exactly what's required of you for your specific location each day and each night. Checking in. We take a two-way satellite text messenger called InReach. It's put out by Garmin. We check in every night, letting people know that we're okay. We also use this if we needed to coordinate evacuation in the event of emergency. Cool. So that's kind of logistics. That's kind of a little bit of the trails. Now my goal is hopefully to inspire you and just share a little bit about what you might expect to see if you're out on some of these routes. I'm going to use a few of these routes. I have Boucher Hermit as a loop, Hermit Bright Angel as a loop, New Hance Grandview. We might use all of these routes as part of our Grand Canyon Challenge, which is like a 3-night, 4-day Grand Canyon backpacking experience. This is what the Hermit Bright Angel loop might look like on elevation profile basis. Generally speaking, it's about 11 miles down to the river, some time along the Tonto, and then you're going to have a big climb back up. On the Boucher Hermit Loop, this is a little bit more rugged. A quick drop down, we're down to about 9 miles down to the river. That 9 miles is a bit deceptive. Oftentimes it takes groups 2 days to complete that 9 miles in total. A hike up along the Tonto, and then we're out. Another route, this is the Escalante Route. The Escalante Route is unique in the sense that, in my opinion, is one of the best routes in the Grand Canyon. And it is unique in the sense that you're going to spend a lot of time closer to the river. I should say it's also one of the most burly routes in the Grand Canyon. So it's not for the faint of heart. 7 miles, roughly speaking, down to the river by a map, although I believe it's closer to 9, depending on which map you're using and which GPS system you're using. Again, the mileage on the maps, the mileage on the GPS, sometimes it's hard to maybe match the two. The best idea is to just do your research, and oftentimes when we're doing our trips, we like to base it on time. Time is often the most common denominator. New Hance to Grandview route. This is going to be the shortest route down to the river, kind of on the south side of some of the routes that we're going to be talking about today. It's about 6 miles down to the river. Again, this can take you a full day. It's not as quick of the 6 miles. It's a burly route. When you get out on these trails, typically the first morning, the sun's rising, you're getting an early start, getting your gear ready to go. The packs typically weigh between 20 and 30 pounds, fully loaded with water, etc. So we try and keep things light. Generally speaking, for our trips, you bring your own personal items, and then we add about 5 to 7 pounds of group gear, food, snack bags, maybe a small fuel canister. Backpacking in the Grand Canyon, as you're first starting, it's absolutely gorgeous. Sometimes the clouds are above you, sometimes they're below. Sometimes we get snow, and that can change things as well. But no matter when you start, you're excited, you're ready to go. The views the first day as you're dropping in can be incredible on all of these routes. And there's always a sense of excitement in the air as we're dropping into the Grand Canyon that first day. Eventually it can be tough, right? The routes sometimes are a little bit more organized like this. This is coming down the Hermit Trail on the first couple miles, coming down into the canyon. Sometimes they're more rugged. This is a little bit later on the day as you get towards Cathedral Staircase, where it's a little bit of a goat trail and more rocky and more gravelly as you're stepping down. Some routes have a little bit of exposure. This is on the Boucher Trail. But all of them are equally beautiful, in my opinion. All of them have something unique at the end that you're going to discover. This is a swimming hole at the bottom of the Hermit Trail, that Hermit Creek. Beautiful oases that you might find at the bottom of your campsites. Sometimes narrow little slot-like canyons that you can go exploring. And always something new. This is the experiences you don't get when you're just looking over the rim, getting a quick 17-minute bird's eye view, let's go get lunch and text home type thing. Here we are, this is now on the Tonto Trail. We're looking back towards, as we come into something called Monument Canyon. And if you look in the back, there's actually a little bit of a minaret back there. If I zoom into it, it looks like this. And as we drop into Monument Canyon, there's actually a pretty big one. You can see it just over the shoulder on the right there. And that monument, as you get closer to it, really has some perspective. Here we have some people at the very bottom, and this is this monolith structure just standing in the middle of this bowl-shaped canyon. Eventually, though, we're going to make our way to the river. And when you make it to the river, it's an incredible feeling. I mean, this is an amazing accomplishment. You've been working hard for it. You've been training for it. You feel like Rocky, right? You've accomplished your goal. It's sometimes a great place to chill and relax. There's beaches down there, which can be quite enjoyable. This is a view of Granite Rapids on the Hermit Bright Angel Loop. This is a shot of Boucher Rapids. Nice sandy beaches. Here's New Hance, or Hance Rapids, coming down the New Hance Trail. You can do some push-ups if you want, get your morning workout in. This is at Cardenas Creek Beach. This is on the Escalante Route. Or Escalante Beach, which is probably my favorite beach in the entire Grand Canyon. Beautiful, kind of half crescent moon lagoon. Nice place to just hang for the afternoon. The rapids are incredibly beautiful. They resonate, they echo throughout the canyon. The campsites can really vary depending on where what trails you're going on as well. This is what a corridor campsite might look like. This is at Indian Gardens, now renamed Havasupai Gardens. Awesome campsite, nice awning. You have a nice place to sit and kind of cook and keep yourself organized. There's about 10 to 12 campsites there where you can kind of sit around and meet other people as well. If you're going to get off the corridor trails, sometimes they're more remote. This is a campsite near Hermit Creek, and they're camping kind of here under a ledge. If I were to go across the creek and take a picture of where they're camping, it looks a little bit like this. So kind of tucked in there. Other campsites, this is a site at Hance Creek as you're coming down Grandview towards Hance Rapids. Here's a site we sometimes camp. It's a dry camp up on White's Butte on the Boucher Trail. This is one of the campsites, maybe sleeping out under the stars on the beach on the Escalante Route. Tonto is full of diversity. You're going to see a lot of things out there. If you're observant, you might see little frogs. They kind of sound like goats sometimes. You might sneak in and realize that, hey, someone's hanging out right next to you. These are pretty common, all kinds of lizards. There's bighorn sheep and little horn sheep that can make their self-presence. Diversity of the flora and the fauna and everything that comes in between. Not just the animals and the plants, but also sometimes the rocks can be so interesting as well. And I'll show you a picture of that in a second here. Here we have a spider and nice little tarantula, but maybe right next to that, you might find something like this, a seashell or a fossil. And these are right there in plain sight. If you're observant, just pick it up. You can find all kinds of incredible discoveries on your own, just on your Grand Canyon backpacking trips. This is hiking on the Tonto. I think you have some of the best views. You get time to think. You're unplugged. There's no email, no internet, no cell phone. It's a nice time to think. The views are incredible. The excitement can be fun with friends. And then eventually you're going to work your way out. Oftentimes people think hiking out of the Grand Canyon has got to be incredibly difficult. But if you're backpacking, you've been out there for 3 nights, 4 days, hopefully you're in better shape. Hopefully your pack is lighter. And now you're motivated, usually after 3 or 4 days, to get the hamburger, get the slice of pizza, or whatever that craving might be to get yourself up and out of the Grand Canyon. And so oftentimes there's a lot of motivation. If you're leaving Grand Rapids in the morning, it might look like this. Kind of has an Indiana Jones, picturesque effect. Here's a view coming out of Hance Rapids. This almost looks like a sphinx right here coming out Monument Creek in the morning. And as you make your way up the Grand Canyon, the walls, the colors change, the views change, and honestly the views keep getting better and better as you make your way up. This is now a view on the corridor trail. This is Bright Angel Trail. You can kind of see the route coming back down. In the distance, where those clump of trees are on the center there, is Indian Garden, or Havasupai Garden. And as you make your way up the trail, the tourists will be coming down in the morning. They'll be high-fiving you as they're coming down with their flip-flops and their lattes in their hands. You're going to be rocking in your boots, enjoying your good time. This is actually a picture of my dad, and the very first time I ever backpacked with my dad was a 3-night, 4-day backpacking trip like this. And he always worked summers in produce in California, never could get away to backpack in the Sierra. But when we started doing backpacking trips in the spring and the fall, he came out in October. And there were very rarely few times I could spend 3 nights, 4 days with my dad completely unplugged. And so that's a very memorable experience for me. This trail has had an incredibly positive impact on me and my family and our community. And I hope it can have an equally positive impact on you and your friends and your family, and give you guys the inspiration that can last a lifetime. If you'd like more information about TSX Challenge, you can find it on our website. You can look for the Grand Canyon Challenge as well, the 3-night, 4-day trips. We also have a handful of trips that are a little bit more limited. We do 2 trips out to Thunder River, 2 trips to the Confluence every year, and we'll be adding more trips in the coming months as well. Here's a couple quick snapshots of kind of what those routes might look like. But if you'd like more information, you can follow us online, tsxchallenge.com. There's itineraries, videos, links, and checklists. You can shoot me an email, send me a text. I literally answer questions year-round for people who are planning and preparing their own trips. Or follow us on Facebook for inspiration, or Instagram, and we'd love to see you connected. Anyways, thank you so much for joining. I apologize if you weren't able to make our class last night, but we'd love to have you back again, and thank you again.